Hello! In this video, we're going to continue working on our remix projects from the last module. In the last module, we talked about warping audio and adding drum and percussion loops to it. And now in this video, we're going to talk about making some decisions. These decisions are about what to keep and what to cut from the original song that you're remixing and what you're going to put into your remix. So here I have this song Contagious by Haywire, and I'm going to play just a portion of the original song for you. I have it all laid out here in one scene. Here we go. So it's very cool and dancey and groovy already. Let's take a deeper look further into the song here. I'm going to stop all clips, and that is the master stop all clips there on the master channel. If I go to this vocal track, you definitely probably want to keep the vocals in whatever song you're remixing because it's usually the most distinctive element and it has the title of the song and it's sort of the whole point of the remix. So let's check out what this vocoder track sounds like.
I know I just can't take it if I spend another day away from you. Baby, you and I know you are contagious, cause I get this feeling only when I'm around you.
Great, so that's sort of the heart of the song. I'm definitely going to be keeping this vocoder track, at least part of it. Let's check out some other tracks. It's also worth noting that this part has some pickup notes, and we're going to be addressing the pickup notes that come in before the beat in a later video. So we have something here called Trillion. If I click on the clip, you can see it comes in here at the end. And I'll go ahead and move my mouse over here to like bar 57. Notice that the context sensitive cursor changes depending on where you are in the clip detail view. And so if I go right here, it turns into a speaker and I can play the clip from that point. So it seems like this is like an extra bass part. Probably not going to use that. It's pretty sparse. Here we have this something called supplemental chords. Let's check this out.
I know I just can't take it if I spend another day away from you.
Okay, so we have some special effect vocals there, and they are in chords, and it's got sort of a rhythmic element to it. Let's go over here to the primary chords clip and listen to some of those chords. Those are pretty nice chords. The thing is, I'm probably going to be reharmonizing the main melody, and so I don't want to use the original chords, at least not throughout. Maybe I'll use them here and there, but I'm leaning towards not using these two tracks. And so this is what you do. You just go through your tracks one at a time, and you determine what do you want to keep, what do you want to cut. Now, I'm going to fast forward the process. I've actually already selected what I want to keep, and I'm going to concentrate just on the vocoder. I know I'm keeping the vocals, but I'm not going to keep the entire vocal track. Part of making a remix is changing up the form of the original song. So you don't need to use the entire vocal. You don't need to use an entire track. You can use just a portion of it, and you can use it however you want. So I am going to solo this vocal track and figure out what parts I want to use. I definitely want to use the beginning here.
Baby, you and I know.
But do I want to use other parts? Let's check out what bar 33 sounds like.
I know I just can't take it if I spend another.
So it's basically the same thing, an octave higher. We have this part over here.
I just can't take it if I spend another.
And if you notice, these two waveforms are sort of similar, maybe like a repeated section almost. A change here at the end.
This feeling only, cause I get this feeling only, cause I get this feeling only when I'm.
Some kind of a cool special effects outro. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to this other clip I have. It's called Voc Cut. And so I have pre-cut this section of the vocal. And I can drag my play and start marker to isolate a section. The reason there's space here is because, like I said, there are pickup notes. If I start right on bar 17, it sounds like this. Okay, so if I start right on bar 16, I can get the pickup notes and it will still be on beat.
Baby, you and I know.
And you can hear that if I put my metronome to it.
Baby, you and I know.
Okay, I really like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this section of the track onto one pad of a drum rack. So I'm going to make a new MIDI track, and I'm using Shift Command T or Shift Control T on a Windows machine. I'm going to get a blank drum rack here. And I'm going to go back to this vocal cut, and I'm just going to drag this onto the first pad. And it takes a second to get in there, but look what it's done. It's loaded up a simpler track for this pad, and it has the entire song's worth of sample in there, but it's highlighted only the part I've highlighted. Look at that, it's right in time and everything. If I record on this track and find where my MIDI controller is, the yellow light's blinking right there. I need to go down about 2 octaves. Use the Z key for that. Now I can play the note C, and it will trigger that part of the sample.
Baby, you and I know. Baby, you and I know.
Now, the only thing I don't like is that, there is this big delay. So I can go about this 2 ways. I can either just build that in to my MIDI playing, where I know that I need to press that key and wait for the sample and then time it manually that way, or I can drag this play arrow up here, this little flag, and now it'll be much more immediate.
Baby, you and I know.
And what I can do is just trigger that at the right time.
Baby, you and I know.
And then it just becomes a matter of you timing your playing correctly. And that's what I prefer to do since I have some keyboard skills. I prefer to just hit the key at the right time and have the sample play immediately. So then I'm going to go back to my vocoder cut clip, and I'm going to move these flags. Here's the next phrase. And let's put that. So again, I didn't change this at all. I just moved the section that's highlighted back to the drum rack. And now I'm going to drag this clip again, this time onto D. I'm not going to use C sharp because I'm using my typing keyboard as my MIDI controller at this point. And so I just want to use that middle row. I don't want to have to hit the W key. So if I zoom into this sample, you'll see it's a different part of the sample.
I just can't take it.
And again, I can fine tune that by moving the flag in.
I just can't take it.
Now I can go back and forth.
Baby, you and I know. I just can't take it. Baby, you and I. Baby, you and I. Baby, you and baby, you and baby, you and baby, you and I just can't take it.
So now we can play the vocals, and you could continue to do that. You just have different sections of the sample playing on different pads of your drum rack. One thing to note here is that we are in one-shot mode, which is where you want to be for this. And I'm going to set this to gate, not trigger. If I leave it on trigger, then the entire sample will play regardless of the rhythm I'm using with my MIDI controller. If I put it on gate, then the sound will stop, the playback will stop as soon as I release the key.
Baby, you and baby, you and baby, you, baby, you, baby, you, baby, baby, you and I. Baby, you and I know.
So that's gate mode versus trigger mode.
Baby, you and I know.
And I've already let go of the key, but it kept on going. In general, you want it to be on gate so that you can control the rhythm of the samples. Now, I actually already have this preloaded over here in my remix under my vocals group, and we'll go over why I have 4 tracks later in another video, but I'll just show you what I have here. I have this primary Vokes track, and I have a number of different samples. And if I just play them, you'll hear what they sound like.
Baby, you and I know I just can't take it. You are contagious. If I spend another day away from you, away from you.
So I've just taken different parts of that main vocal, put them on different pads in a drum rack, and that way I can play them like an instrument. Up here, I have higher parts, parts that have been transposed or, originally transposed in the sample.
Baby, you and I
Now, this one, I have a different warp mode. I put tones mode on for my warping algorithm on purpose because I experimented and I liked the way that sounded the best. It's got a little distortion, a little grit in it. And if I go to this sample, you'll see that I have that in beats mode with an envelope of 89. So all of the techniques and tools that we have studied in previous modules, especially dealing with simpler, in this case, come to bear in this project. It's a great culminating sort of project for all the skills you've been learning. If I go to the controls tab, you'll see that I have this pitched up 11 steps. The main vocal, I have it pitched down -1. One of the ways you can transform a song in your remix is by changing the key. And it really depends on the purpose of the key change and what the artist's desires are. In this case, Haywire is not involved with this remix, so I'm just going to do whatever I want. And I pitched the entire vocal down 1 semitone to put it in a more playable key for me. And then that means that any samples that I'm going to transpose up an octave, it's an octave -1, so that's 11 higher instead of 12 higher, which would be an octave normally. But everything's down a half step, and it's important if you're going to do that, just make sure you go through each individual drum pad and change it so that they're all consistent. All right. If you leave one of them at the original pitch and you've transposed the others, it's very noticeable. Okay, so now that I have decided that I'm basically only going to keep the vocals and one of the drum tracks, I am done with the original tracks. And what I have done here is I have grouped them into a group called original tracks. I'm going to hide that group and I'm going to mute it so that I can't play those clips by accident. They're not going to get into my export. We won't hear them at all.